Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
Hey listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. This podcast is going to have two introductions. It's going to be a little bit different than normal, but we want to share with you ahead of this episode that we had a great conversation. Husker Harvest Days, this is going to be one of the most amazing stories that we get to share. Two things. It's probably going to get turned off. Some of you are never going to get all the way to the end of this episode.
Don't.
And I would encourage you, listen, stick it out. But two, I want to give you a warning. Between the 10-minute mark and the 20-minute mark of this episode, if you are a person that gets queasy, doesn't like potential gruesome stories, there are no visuals. If you're watching this on YouTube, there is no visual that is going to cause any of this. But there is a portion of this story that if your stomach is weak, we want you to know it's between the 10-minute mark and the 20-minute mark. You're welcome to fast forward through that. You're not going to miss the meaning behind this episode. But I know that because I sometimes get that way. My family gets that way. Maybe this is a message more for my sister than anybody else.
I was going to say, everybody I know would be all right with it.
You're also a former firefighter that has been
gather.
in a position in which you can...
A little calloused.
It's a fantastic episode. Super pumped to share it with you, but wanted to give you a little bit of that warning. So if you're here, stay in it with us. This is going to be fantastic. If that is the type of person that you are, 10-minute, 20-minute mark, fast forward. Come back and join us. Hey, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. This is Tanner.
This is Corey.
And this is David. We're at Husker Harvest Days.
Yes, sir.
2024.
We are. What an absolutely beautiful couple of days that we've had. It could have been terribly miserable. Corey and I have sweat through our shirts.
Just the back.
Because we are finally, I'm still in the sun, but we are absolutely enjoying ourselves. What a great set of interviews that we've had here on the second day. This one I predict is not going to disappoint either.
It would be bad if you predicted that it would.
I know, it would be kind of rude, wouldn't it?
I mean, we wouldn't tell them if it sucked.
Yeah, this is actually going to be one of our worst interviews.
That's right.
So this would be the time to go like, rate, review, and share, because after this point, you're probably going to be disappointed. No, just kidding. In true sense of humor, we do profit shows on Monday, and then we have fun shows on Thursday. But we try to make the profit shows just as fun and the fun shows just as educational.
Right.
We just like to have a couple of different titles. Maybe we just start releasing 2 shows a week, and they're all just regular shows.
I think we could have a show every day if we had the time.
Yeah.
People have asked that.
Yeah.
I get asked probably once a week that we should do that.
It's usually dairy farmers. Those guys are insane.
Don't they have that? It's called The News.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's boring. And it's fake.
And we're not boring.
And exactly. Nobody watches the news, so
right,
we can't be every day.
What do you want from us? Because if you want something every day, farmforprofitllc@gmail.com, or find our social media, subscribe on YouTube. All of the absolutely great spots.
No, or 515-207-9640. Bye, Nick. Call us.
Yes. And what a great opportunity we have to interact with our audience, because some of the topics that most of the topics that we talk about come from them. We want to know what you guys want to hear, and this is one that I'm most excited about, because are you ready to power through your harvest? Meet the Maya corn heads. They're designed for maximum efficiency and unmatched durability in the toughest of conditions.
With precision engineering and advanced features, Maya Cornheads ensures every kernel counts, giving you the performance and reliability that you need. Get more from your harvest with equipment built to last.
Reach out to your local Maya Cornheads dealer or visit mayacornheads.com to find your perfect match today. Maya Cornheads, harvest with confidence. Ultimately, we understand how important of what we say is, and that probably hit me a lot more seriously here towards the end of the summer. And I realized that, hey, we're not having the margins that we've been used to having over the last 3 or 4 years in agriculture, and things are starting to come to a point to where we got to batten down the hatches. And some of those hatches we have to make sure we take care of and don't just shut things out that don't matter. You're not alone. You're listening to this podcast. We're here with you. Every other one of the listeners is also there with you. And I'm excited to explore the conversation with this gentleman, get his story, and help share that message even further, that things can be awesome no matter what you are faced with. These are badass hats. Absolutely love them. I didn't realize, Dave, your hat is different than
Yeah.
Corey's
is.
hat.
Mine's way cooler.
It is,
You
yeah.
have to know the logo.
It's
to
like our
know what
logo.
it is.
So that's my favorite, and then everybody else loves those, and I hate them. But I wanted to wear my First Form shirt because I want to eventually get sponsored by them too. So I
Yep.
want to put Flea Speaks, and because nobody
Oh,
knows
you're
where that came
faking
from.
it till you make it?
Hey, you know
Yeah.
what? You got to wear them. Well, I'm in talks with them, but I don't have an Instagram following yet. So I'm the guy that always worked in the dark and then just popped up during big,
Yeah.
events. But I got to change that when you're trying to be a speaker. So
right. Yep.
I've got to change my whole mindset about advertising myself.
Well, we're not
but
trying today. You're the speaker today.
That's right.
So Tanner
That's right.
needs to introduce our guest here. That is our guest that you just heard. But before you do that, I want to say big thanks to Cody Vanderholm for lining this
Oh,
up.
that's
He,
right.
he brought us this guest, and pretty excited for it. So
Yeah.
thank you, Cody.
Also, big thanks to Maya Cornheads for
Absolutely.
facilitating this, giving us this beautiful spot to be in. But we are proud to present to you a U.S. Paralympic athlete. We have an Olympian
An Olympian.
on the podcast. Also
He doesn't have his
rancher,
medal on.
also a rancher, also a father.
Mm-hmm.
He's known as Flea, and I can't wait to figure out why.
Yeah.
Why? But ultimately, he is probably the first guest that we've had on that has lost a limb.
Yeah.
Nah, well,
Because
lost.
lost a limb.
Lost. Yes. Okay.
I said that key.
Yes. Yeah. You did. You did. Okay.
We've had some fingers, maybe.
I would say he's also the best-looking ginger on the podcast today.
I appreciate that.
The best looking ginger on the podcast.
It's just a mustache, is all it is.
I do like a good mustache.
That's right.
I do like a good mustache.
Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Or do we call you Flea?
Flea. Everybody calls me Flea. So.
All right, let's start with that. Before we go back to little Kevin,
Oh, man.
where's Flea from?
So
because
when-
I think of what dogs get.
So my name is Kevin Hifley, but it's a German name, Hifley, so it's spelled Hueftle, so nobody ever could say Hifley. But my first name, Kevin, is spelled Kevan, so nobody could
Kevin.
ever say Kevin either. It's just Kevin. It's not Kevan or Kevin. So Hifley got cut off. There's a lot of Hifleys in Eustis. That's all the town is. So you always call everybody by their last names, in high school. And they'll, Hifley this, Hifley that. Well, there's too many Hifleys. The Hif just got cut off, and the Flea just stuck, and I've been Flea ever since.
Cool.
So-
Oh, well, that's a lot simpler of a
It is.
story than I was
No,
expecting
it's-
that to be.
It's just the name, 'cause I mean, even then you have to explain to yourself why your name's Flea, but you have to explain to yourself
'Cause
what.
I was thinking of something like itched and wouldn't
No.
go away. And
I was one of those things. Those guys that just showed up everywhere when you didn't want them to be there. Yeah.
Well, that's true too, but
Okay, let's go back to young Kevan.
yeah.
Come on,
Flea.
Flea.
Young Flea. How was that? What's the growing up look like?
To be honest, growing up is a little rough when you have bright red hair in elementary and high school, and I actually had in high school I had hair down to my shoulders too at one point in time.
I could see that.
It was very well. My grandpa Carl told me it was like in my freshman year, told me I need to get a haircut, and it was short, and I just didn't cut it for 3 years.
Ah,
So that's just
don't
kind
tell
of
me
how
what to do.
Hifleys are. Yeah. So no, but I got bullied quite a bit when I was younger. I had a gap tooth, sucked my thumb till I was like 8 years old, like big old frame glasses,
Yeah.
that Dad wore. So it was a little rough. And then high school was, kind of the same way for a while. But then I found sports, and I figured out I was an athlete, and that kind of turned everything around a little bit. So
What kind of sports?
So everything: football, basketball, track. I was actually in musicals too. I was in math counts. I kind of was in the whole high school experience, and I kind of, when I do my speeches now, it's kind of different because I was bullied. But then when I got into high school and like elementary and or in high school more, I turned into a bully a little bit because I was from one side to the other. So I've seen both sides of that and how it can be
Gotcha.
difficult anyways. So that's not something I'm proud of, but I'm actually glad I went through because now I can talk to elementaries and junior highs about. I've been both sides of it, so it's not fun. But
And
yeah.
where was this at?
Eustis Farnham High School in Eustis, Nebraska.
Okay.
So about an hour and a half west and south of here. Yep.
Great.
How far away is that from Colorado? You got to be
Not
getting
that
close.
far.
You got to be getting close to Colorado
Yeah.
then.
We're nestled in the corner. We're like an hour and a half from the corner of Colorado.
Can you guys
but
say
Denver's
Ogallala?
only 5.
Ogallala.
Ogallala. Yep.
Ogallala, Nebraska. Yeah.
Yep.
Can you say Tanner?
I bet I can, but could you say the Ogallala Livestock Commission and Ogallala Livestock, Ogallala?
Do you ever have to say that when you
That's got-
auction? Have you ever auctioned in Ogallala?
I have. I've been there once. So yeah, the Scow family works there. So.
Yeah. Dave's an auctioneer, really.
Yep.
So he talks
Yeah.
fast.
So have you not noticed how fast I talk yet?
Right. Ding dong.
It's very, very fast.
You're going to appear really fast because I talk really slow. According to the comment section and
Yeah, he
Corey.
does. So
So as we got to playing sports.
Yep,
As a
playing
young
sports,
kid?
and I was good in sports in high school. my senior year, I was all-state basketball, all-state football, state record in track. So, that's where I've learned to work my tail off. I was the guy that the other athletes didn't really enjoy on your team because I was the guy that I wasn't the most athletic, but I would work my tail off in practice. So I didn't lose 21s in basketball. I was always the guy in track practice that would make sure I came in on time. Like I didn't not do a workout, and the only reason I played a lot of times was because of my hustle. So that's all I had. I wasn't gifted to be an athlete, So I was 110 pounds and 5'7", and it wasn't going to be in my cards unless I worked for it. So
I think you should change from work your tail off to work your leg off.
Yeah, that's right. At that point in time, I still had 2 legs, thank goodness. So, but yeah, so.
So where you at? Let's fast forward and then we'll go back to the middle.
Okay.
So fast forward to now. Married, kids.
Kids.
Where do you live?
Still live in Eustis. I live a mile and a half away from the house I grew up on. Still live on the family and farm and ranch. I actually localized everything, so I farm and ranch everything within 2 miles of my house.
Wow.
So I don't have to travel. As of last year, I don't have any more travel.
What do you mean? You got to choose where you farm?
Well, yeah, I got rid of the valley ground. It wasn't being profitable, and I just farm closer to home now, and I just do less acres and more cows on less acres and more.
What kind of cattle you have?
Red Angus.
Red Angus,
Yep.
and a cow calf or
Cow calf
and finish?
Cow calf. So I actually have Lazy Creek Beef Company also, so I do a direct sales beef company as well.
Okay.
So I'll finish 30 to 60 head a year.
Do you do that after COVID or before COVID?
I started that in 2017.
Okay.
And when I started buying beef, it was $1.42 a pound hanging weights when I started buying beef from the ranch. Now it's $3.20.
So you did 300 how many head
So-
a year?
No, I do 30 to 60 head is what I'll finish a year. I
thought you were saying you finish like you could slaughter a calf every day.
Well, now, so years ago, I was doing 4 to 5 head a month, which is quite a bit for one guy delivering beef across. I have beef in like 7 states at that point in time.
Wow.
But it's just me in a minivan delivering beef around the country.
Got it.
So, yep. But
All right, so back up. Now we know where you're present.
Yep.
Back up to where we became paralyzed, if you would, or where you lost your leg.
He's not
He
paralyzed.
did walk in.
So why do they call it Paralympics then?
so it's Paralympics is parallel to the Olympics.
See how that segue worked?
Yep.
Yeah, you guys had no freaking clue.
No.
Bunch of dumbasses
That's right.
over
No,
here.
That's
you
right.
Tell you what.
No.
So my speeches always start on October 23rd, 2005. I was out scouting for deer actually right where I live now, and I was on top of a big old hill, and I saw a coyote, and I've grabbed my 243 probably 100 times in my life. I grabbed the gun out of the pickup,
Yeah?
and next thing I know, I go to step out of the pickup, and the gun was no longer, the gun was in my hand, but my foot just started going ba-boom, ba-boom, and my head was ringing, and I looked down, and I had Loper lace-up boots on, and my top bow was still together, and I untied that not knowing what actually happened, and my boot literally fell off my foot. In the boots, the seam on the inside, the heel on both sides, and all my laces were blown apart. My foot went from being normal foot to being that big.
Pause there for a second. Do you guys know what ropers are?
Those lace-up ropers. They're just regular boots that you lace up like tennis shoes all the way to the top.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
You guys need some ropers. Like,
Yeah,
you
I
should
have
bring it
some.
back. Like,
I have
straight,
some.
bring it back.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, keep going.
So then I realized that I shot myself in the foot with a 243 about 2 inches away from my ankle bone is what had happened.
Gotcha.
This is back in 05, so I had a cell phone but didn't have any service. So we had 2-way radios for farming. So I got a hold of my grandma, who got a hold of my uncle, who got a hold of my dad, or my mom, who got a hold of my dad, who finally came and picked me up. And I think I was there for like 45 minutes by myself at
Wow.
this point in time. I probably could have ended up driving if it had been any longer than that. I don't know how long I just sat there before realizing what actually had happened, but they said the bullet went in so hot that it actually kind of cauterized the vein going in, or else I would have been bleeding
That's
out a lot
a
worse
good
than it
thing,
was. Yeah, so I took the sock off and I shoved it in the middle of my foot and just kind of held it there. And then Dad had an old 7.3 diesel, and he just came roaring up it was actually it's a pivot that we grazed, and it just hitting all those pivot tracks all the way up. I could hear him from a mile away. He came and picked me up, took me to the highway, and the EMTs met me, and I ended up going to Cozad, Nebraska small town hospital, where I finally got some morphine in me. So things were pretty good after that, but then they had to fly me. Nobody really wanted me. They called, Kearney, Lincoln, Denver. So I ended up going to the med center in Omaha. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Ended up going to the med center that night. They wanted to amputate that night. I was 20 years old. I was running track at Kearney at UNK at the time. So my life was still sports. I wasn't going to be a guy with only one foot that was going to be able to run track anywhere. So I'm like, I'm not cutting it off. Side note is, my parents getting down there, they took the crop dusters, a friend of ours that cropped us. Dave Malcolm, they took his brother's plane with no interior lights in it. So my dad's sitting on a bucket holding a flashlight, flying into Blair, Nebraska, took off at Johnson Lake to get down to Omaha to see me because they flew me in the helicopter.
Yeah.
So had my uncle meet me down there. My aunt got pulled over going to the hospital with my family. They got a police escort to the hospital after she got pulled over from Blair. And so it was it's a crazy couple of days. But they wanted to cut it off that night. I decided, obviously I was pretty high the whole time, but there's no way I was going to cut my foot off. So we tried to keep it. We had 5 surgeries within 6 days of cleaning all the shrapnel and bone fragments, and it was a gnarly foot. They literally had to lay it over all the way to my pinky toe to clean all. My X-ray was, if this is my pinky toe, my X-ray was just like a Christmas tree. It just had a piece of shrapnel everywhere. The bolt really never came out. It hit bones and just exploded right there.
Really?
So.
Was it a partition?
Smokes.
They make Nosler partitions.
Oh, no.
for
It was just a
243?
regular soft tip 243.
Okay.
Yep, just regular soft tip 243. So.
Some of them bullets are made to do that. So.
Holy smokes.
It was, they sewed me up good enough that when I actually left the hospital, I could put my foot up and I could see you through the hole where they sewed. So my ankle bone was here, and then the bolt went in right above here, but I could see right through my foot, and I could take pictures of my friends through my foot when I went home.
Huh.
It was
So they did not amputate.
Not then.
Okay.
But that was your choice.
Yes, they wanted to, and I was like, there's no way I would be able to play sports or anything, and they sent me home with a wound vac, which is a sponge in there, and then you seal up, and it puts negative pressure and actually pulls your muscles and skin and back together so it heals better, which is great. But when you change it every 2 days, you're literally ripping off. It's bright red tissue, and you're ripping something that grew to it every single 2 days, and it was the most painful thing. Right after the hunting accident, ripping that off every couple of days. Within a month, though, I was actually October 23rd. By January 13th, I was walking again.
Wow.
But it was never going to be a foot that I ever really wanted to have. So March 30th, 2006, we went to Omaha, Nebraska, and we chopped her off.
Huh.
Because of complications, or
I was never
like
going to be an athlete. I would be limping around it the rest of my life. It was fused. There was I was missing 30% of the bottom of my foot. It was never going to be a foot I could ever use, really. So it was just going to be a foot that looked like a foot. But it was nothing that I was going to be happy with or be able to actually play sports with or anything like that.
So did you just cut the ankle off, so tib-fib bone where your shin is?
7.5 inches from the ground.
7.5 inches,
So,
okay.
Well, this would be a first-time podcast, but so back then you only used to be able to put feet underneath on a pylon system. So you had to put a adapter on the bottom of your stump, and it went to a pylon to a foot.
Okay.
All right, so they didn't make any feet that were lower than 7.5 inches to fit in there. So I could have cut it
Gotcha.
off clear down here because my accident was actually right here.
Yeah.
It blew this part away and my ankle bone right here, but they couldn't do that back then because the adapter nothing would ever fit in the bottom of your foot. Well, now we have feet that you put on the back of them, posterior mounted feet now that have a
Gotcha.
lot more athletic build and spring to them, and so you could have did different. But my stump is really awesome because the accident wasn't where my stump's at, so I healed really, really well. Everything went great, and I tried to go back and run track by June 1st after I amputated March 30th. That was a mistake. I was still bleeding and thought I had to get right back into it and start training right away, and that leads to the next 10 years of my life of being an alcoholic.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry that I offered you a beer.
No, that's really fine.
You said that very casually.
Yeah.
And so I read on your flyer here, sober since 15.
August 7th, 2015.
And I was going to ask you, sober, is it just, when people say sober, I've had some that just say, I decided not to drink.
No.
Not necessarily sober, so you actually felt like you were drinking too much, and you call it sober for that reason.
So at the end of it, I could drink a whole 175 of vodka or a 30-pack of Busch Light in a day, just to
Holy
function.
God,
Okay.
that is that's
so-
a lot.
And that was pain management? That was
Not so much. It was a little bit of legs not fitting right in pain management. Mostly it was mental. I mean, I was a 20-year-old kid that decided to cut his leg off and thought it was going to be just as happy-go-lucky, And then you're a farm kid who doesn't talk about your feelings. You're small, you're 20 years old, and then it just keeps building up. I was the life of the party and hang. I mean, I had a great time in college. I went to Beatrice, SEC, but the entire time I was not mentally okay. I was struggling every single day, and that was just to get me by. Was just drinking. There wasn't days. I don't remember 5 days in 10 years I didn't drink. In the last 5 years, it was every single day.
Wow.
Every single day. It was 3 beers prior to wake up. I knew if I was going to Eustis to get parts, I could drink 3 beers on the way to Eustis, which is 4.5 miles. I knew I had a routine. When I go check cows, I took at least a 6-pack.
So did you go deeper than beer and into recreational drugs?
When I I did. When you have a prosthetic and a foot issue, you have OxyContin and Percocets if you want them. So if I didn't have alcohol, is my number one choice. But I would always use those in backup if I was always going to run out somewhere, or it was traveling or something like that.
Gotcha.
OxyContin and Percocet were definitely in the system.
Some more over the counter though.
Yep. Never
Yeah.
never dove in anything else. But alcohol. Yeah, I was 5'9", 200 pounds, and just worthless at that point in time, to be honest.
I noticed your bracelet.
200 pounds.
Yeah, I was 200 pounds when I got sober.
So I noticed your bracelet says I can do all things I can do all things, and normally that's a Philippians 4:13
That's
reference to the Bible.
Yeah, right here.
And
Two of 'em
so,
right here as well, so.
if that's there, was there a religious tie to quit drinking and to change your life and to move forward as well?
Not at the time I did it,
Okay.
but since then, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
100%.
So I got sober on August 7, 2015, and it was just one day, then it was 2 days, then it was 3 days, and it just kept snowballing. Like, I don't know. There's no reason. I didn't wake up that day and say I didn't. I tried to quit drinking multiple times before this. I mean, I could go 2 weeks without drinking, and all of a sudden, something would go wrong, and it's just right back. But then when people don't understand is when you're an alcoholic and you quit for those 2 weeks, you don't start back up at 2 beers a day. You start back where the same place you finished off. That's where you start right back up the same day again. You might have 1 beer on Thursday, but Friday morning, you're drinking 30 beers a day. Like, that's just like that. You're instantly an alcoholic again. And my mind, that's how my mind works with everything I do. I'm addicted to anything that I do. Like, there's a reason I got so fast in the Paralympic world for track and field. I was addicted to working out and making my body better and things like that as soon as I got sober. So
you went from 200 when you stopped drinking?
What'd you point at?
The people in the hazmat suits?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I saw them walking around earlier.
I don't know. There's people walking by with hazmat suits. But side note, we just did a podcast. We talked about tattoos. That's the tattoo I want. Philippians 4:13. I've wanted it for a long time. So
were you married at the time?
No. When I was an alcoholic? Yeah. I met my wife in 2007.
Okay.
So I met her playing presidents and assholes at a party in Beatrice, Nebraska.
Yeah, okay.
And I was very good. I was very good at all drinking games. Yeah, it was. But
So post amputation.
Yep. So I'm amputated in 06. Met my wife in 07. She literally met me as an alcoholic. Like, she's only known that until 2015 of me being that person, which is tough because that person wasn't driven like this person is. It's a wholly different.
Gotcha.
It's a totally different person. And so we've had issues. I mean, obviously every marriage does, but of me being too much because I can be. And I know I can be. When I think of something, I want to do something. It is on my mind, and it's gonna, either happen or I'm gonna die trying to get that. So,
Like I said, an addictive personality.
it's 100% what I have.
But she's got to like you a lot better now.
Absolutely,
Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Was it hard for her in that, if you guys both met drinking at that time, I'm guessing she was drinking too. And then if you quit cold turkey, did she quit cold turkey as well?
No, because it never bothered me to have it around to say when I quit.
Got
but
it.
she actually doesn't. She's almost like a year sober now, but not because she had a problem, just because we just don't drink anymore. But when she was drinking, like, it could be in the house, it did not bother me. I could go to bars and hang out. My rule is always, if you told me the same story twice, that's when I'm going home. So I could be around the bar for the first story, around the table, but as soon as you came over and told me the same story you told me 10 minutes ago, then, yeah, I've been here long enough at the bar to hang out. Time for me to go home.
So do you guys think, I saw somebody's Facebook post the other day that said #sober on the bottom. He's just getting fit is what it is. I don't know if he stopped drinking because of any certain reason other than he's just trying to get fit. Does the word sober mean that we maybe had a drinking problem, or does the word sober just mean I quit drinking? Or is there a better term for I just decided to stop drinking?
I think it's just you just don't drink.
Okay. I didn't know if there was a background. I'm trying to think of the word with it.
It's got. I mean, it's
just
a lot
use
more
the
popular
words.
now than it used to be, just to not drink, just to be healthier.
Yeah, correct.
I just say I cut back.
There you go. Exactly.
I mean, I drank a lot in college, and I've cut back this summer. That's how I've lost some weight, doing that. But could do more. But I still like the social aspect. But I've never had I drink 30 beers in a day or a bottle of this or that.
Unless we're on a trade show trip.
No, I mean, even then, like, I probably had 6 or 7 yesterday from 3 in the afternoon.
Sure.
Maybe 10 after, because I forgot that we started so early, but like.
Yeah, and I never drank, and I was cool with never drinking until I wanted to do it socially because everybody else was.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's the term. Everybody else was.
yeah, socially.
He didn't drink. Okay, I want to test this theory here.
Okay.
He didn't. 27.
27.
He
I
didn't
think.
drink till he's 27.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is he trustworthy?
Well,
Like, he didn't even. He wasn't even like. Because isn't part of your childhood or like coming up like you're experimenting?
stealing a beer from dad once in a while.
Right. Yeah.
My parents didn't drink. I've never seen alcohol in the house. I've never seen my dad drink ever. So he was drinking a lot when he was young, and they cut cold turkey. Their first kid died of congenital heart disease. He blamed it on alcohol. They've never had alcohol. Even at our wedding, we had wine, and he's like, make sure that my table does not have alcohol at it. And so he has never, since then, I've never grown up seeing my dad, mom, anything with any kind of alcohol. We never went to like games or tailgated or any of that. We went in bars and played pool, but we just never drank. So it's just whatever your norm is. It's a social norm. It was never normal until I moved away, and then everybody else was drinking. I just had a record going, and just like you, if you got a record going, you want to just keep going with it and not fail. So I was like, all right, screw it. I'll just go till 27, and till finally I decided, let's give it a go.
So I want to keep on the story because your story is fascinating. We still haven't gotten to a piece that I did talk about in our introduction. You're an Olympic athlete.
Paralympic athlete, yes, that's correct.
So you get sober.
Yep.
And you're like, all right, I'm going to go to the Olympics?
So I got sober in 15, and the first year was just me not drinking. I dropped like 20 pounds. Like I didn't work out. I didn't do any training. It was just me eating better and not drinking 5,000 calories a day. And then 2017, on January 1st, I took a leg that I hadn't worn, a sprint leg, which is it's like a big C. So it acts like an ankle, so it compresses when you run on it to give you the same bounce as an ankle would give you.
Springboard kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, it's you get 100 and whatever 50% return out of your ankle, you get 30% out of a prosthetic. Oh. It's not as nearly as much people think, unless you're using the long jump leg, which that's a whole different story.
Oh.
But they designed a long jump leg you can go like 8.5 meters on. It's insane.
Wow.
But so took the old 10-year-old leg and went to Kearney, Nebraska, and had a new socket made, which is the top part of the prosthetic where my stump goes in. They made a new socket, and I went to the Y, and I ran for the first time since 2006. And it was slow, and it was about fell, and it was horrible. And next thing you know, I ran 2 days in a row, then 3, and then I got a training partner or a coach. He started helping me out. One of my old athletes that I ran with at UNK, he was coaching in Colorado, and he's like, all right, do these workouts and do this, this, and this. I actually flew out to LA to do a track meet called the Angel City Games. It was the Paralympic Nationals that year for Team USA. And I was in a 10-year-old leg, and I was also 30 years old at the time, 32 years old at the time, which is kind of old to be a sprinter.
Yeah.
And I was getting made fun of out there because my leg was old, I was old. I played a place in like 7th and 8th and 100 and 200 and 3rd in the 400-meter dash. But I met a person out there called Nick Stillwell, who runs an organization called the Never Say Never Foundation, who gets prosthetics usually to kids, because these aren't covered. Sprint legs aren't covered for insurance.
Oh.
So if you want a sprint leg, you have to pay for it's out of pocket. And
it's all carbon fiber, so
it's
I'm
all
guessing
carbon
it's
fiber,
expensive.
and it's very expensive. And so to get that set up for kids, most time it's unrealistic. You can't get it. And every kid should grow up running. So he does mostly kids, but for me, he saw my leg and saw I was fast. He's like, dude, what are you on? And I'm like, what I have. And so he set me up with a guy in Seattle, Washington, named Greg Davidson, who runs Davidson Prosthetics, and he got me, sent me a new foot out there, a new socket, everything for free just to fly it out there, and I started training really, really hard. Yeah, and then I got fast.
Got fast.
Were
you fast before when you had 2 legs?
I was a state record holder in the 4x4. We ran 326.8. I ran a 48.5 400 in high school.
Yeah, that's kind of fast.
And then I never ran the 100 and 200 because that wasn't my events. But for the Paralympics, the only events I get to choose from in Paralympics I'm a T64, which is a below the knee amputee. That's my category. That category. So we run with the T62s, which is the doubles in the 100. But then the 200 meter dash, we're just our T64s. But I only get the 100, 200 meter dash, javelin, shot put, discus, high jump are the only events I get to choose from for the Paralympics. So I'm a 4.8 runner, but at the age I am, probably not so much a 4.8 runner. So I hadn't been in starting blocks in my life until 2017 to try to be a sprinter for one of the fastest people in the entire world. So it was a little bit of a learning curve there right away, but I got fast really quick. I started running a lot of college track meets. And I'm training 3 times a day, 5 a.m. workouts on my own, and I'm taking kids to the weight room after that, and I'm an hour and a half workout in the track, and I'm doing all of this with the beef company, running too many head of cattle, still farming. I pretty much had to have my dad come out of retirement. He was almost 70 to take over my slack, because I was gone an hour and a half in the middle of the day, because I had to train when it was hot out, because all the track meets you go to are hot. So there's no point in me training earlier in your evening. If you go to a track meet that's not 100 degrees out, and you're not used to it, you're going to run like shit.
Yep.
So, but I just kept training, and it was tons of work. It was a lot of doubting going on, because my goal was to make Team USA, to be one of the fastest sprinters in the entire world. Like, you have to be top 5 or they're not even going to really look at you because it's so expensive for them to take you places and this and that. Well, I run enough track meets that I got noticed, and they actually sent me to Lima, Peru to run the Pan American Games down there. I ended up placing first in the 100 and got second place in the 200-meter dash in the Pan American Games, which, I mean, I was ecstatic because you get to hear the national anthem being played for the first time. You know, from a kid that's less than 5 years ago. It was 2015, 2009. So 4 years ago, I was an alcoholic, weighing 200 pounds that I wouldn't trust with my own kids at one point in time because I was driving around drinking with my daughter in the vehicle. I mean, it was just a normal thing for me. It was horrible. Like, I never had a rock bottom, but I had a lot of moments looking back where I'm like, well, I'm a freaking idiot. Like, I can't believe I got away with this, this, and this. My son has never seen me drink a drop of alcohol in my life. My daughter's 11 and Hayes is 8, but so he's never seen me drink ever in my life. But to be honest, the worst day of my entire life is when I was actually sneaking alcohol into the hospital when my daughter was born. Because that's how much it had a hold of me back then.
Wow.
And that was ridiculous to think back at, that I had to do that to survive. And so I like to promote, obviously social drinking is not a big deal, but when you're something like that, like, I'm here to help people. I've been through a lot in my life, and I've hopefully I can help other people go through that or going through the same issues that I went through, knowing that you can be at the bottom. And I came out of the bottom, and I went clear to the top. So, I got to wear that red, white, and blue. They send you a big old suitcase with it, and they have all the Team USA stuff in it, which is the most amazing feeling in the world, knowing that you've worked that hard to be able to represent your country.
Yeah.
And then we went to Lima, Peru, which I don't know if you've ever been to Peru and Lima, but it's pretty run down where we were at. The buses we were taking, we had a route to the track and where we stayed at the village, and there was cones that were supposed to be, lining your way, and there was people that are on both sides. Their job was to put the cones back up because there's the stoplights don't work in Peru, Lima. Like, it's just, you get to an intersection, you just figure it out.
Yeah.
And they have all the tuk-tuks there and everything like that. Well, there's people that they were leaning against. There's a cement wall and then cones. They were putting these cones up, and they would be against the cement wall, and they're this far away from the bus, and we're going by at 50 miles an hour.
Jeez.
Like, you'd put your head against the window, and you'd be sleeping, and you wake up, and you see eyeballs go by you. Like, it was insane. And you go from that and go to Dubai. We went to UAE, Dubai, for the World Championships. Completely opposite. The bus we had in Dubai had every seat was heated and cooled seats in Dubai. Yeah. All the Ubers were BMWs and Mercedes.
A lot of wealth in Dubai, yep.
It was the craziest experience of my life going to Dubai. We stayed in the hotel that was the longest hotel in the entire world. The hotel was like 3/4 of a mile long. Like, and I ended up placing 4th in the 100 and 200-meter dash in Dubai. I missed placing in the podium at the World Championships by 0.03 seconds.
Oh.
So that was rough to come home from that.
Are you ready to take your crops to the next level? Our partner, Ag Explorer, is more than just a plant nutrition company. They are your partner in growth. Ag Explorer is family-owned and built on a foundation of education and agronomy that delivers innovative solutions that bring real results to your fields.
Truly the gold standard in plant nutrition and agronomy education, helping farmers maximize their yields while improving their soil health. Are you ready to see the difference that Ag Explorer can make? Join the thousands of farmers who already trust them, because with Ag Explorer, you don't just grow crops, you grow success.
Wow. So what year was that?
That was 19. And then the story keeps going.
Roll into it.
So then what happens in 20?
Yep, COVID.
COVID hits. And when you're already 30-some years old, that you're too old to be training in the first place for this, and you're already on a schedule that's insane for years of you doing, because I wasn't athletic enough to be able to take time off. Like, if I didn't keep with it, I knew it wasn't going to be fast enough to make, this Paralympic train for Tokyo.
Yeah.
And so they canceled, of course, COVID, and then 21 comes around, and I'm in the best shape of my life. The weight room is insane. I'm flying on the track, practices that have never felt better. Like, I'm not just making the team in my mind. I'm going to Tokyo and I'm placing. I'm coming home with a contract. I'm coming home with a sponsorship. I'm doing all this at one point in time, but 2 people have helped me out, the Home Agency and Paulson's Incorporated, the only 2 people that ever helped me sponsor by this point in time. And that's only been a couple $1,000s in years of doing this. So it's been all on my dime. It's been all on my time. And for me to actually know that it all was worth it, because my daughter grew up in the track with me. Like, since she was 3 years old, she's been helping me. So it's been great, but it still costs money to do all this and travel around. So I go to the world. So the kids can't come with me. The wife can't come with me to Minneapolis because of COVID. So it's just me up there by myself trying to make this team. There's hardly anybody in the crowd. I'm doing block starts on Tuesday morning, and I had the most confidence I've ever had in my entire life on track. I mean, my life is going great right now. I'm doing block starts. I'm 30 meters out in block starts, and all of a sudden I hear something snap, and I look down, and my right ankle won't move. It won't work. I just tumbled.
So the opposite ankle.
Yeah, the one that's supposed to be the good one. So it ended up getting help to the Team USA tent, and ended up finding out later, we didn't know that at that point in time, and I snapped my posterior tibial tendon and spring ligament in 2. So I didn't have nothing holding my foot together anymore. Went to the Team USA training tent, and Dee Mahoney was in there, and she's like, all right, so what are we going to do? And I said, just tape it and go. Like, I've trained for 4 years for one track meet.
Yeah.
Like, do you think I wasn't going to run regardless if I was crawling across that finish line?
Yeah.
Like, mentally, I had to do something.
This
Like,
sounds familiar. You're in the hospital after your gunshot, and sew this thing back together.
Yeah, it's just let's go. So I was non-weight bearing from Tuesday to Friday afternoon. So I crutched into the track meet Friday afternoon. Went to the EMT, the tent. She taped my ankle up enough that it would function as an ankle at least. Because if I would hold my ankle up when there was no tape on it, it just went like this. I could literally not move. It literally would not work.
Huh.
The tendon and ligament were literally both completely torn apart.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I competed, and I still placed 5th in the 100-meter dash. And the time I ran in Lima, Peru, and won with, I ran faster at trials with no ankle. So you're telling me how much faster I would have been actually with an ankle? It would have been a really fun Paralympics for me to go
amazing.
compete.
How does that even happen?
I don't know.
You didn't have one ankle.
The 200-meter dash is the next day, and I placed 4th in that as well, and missed Team USA by like 0.6 of a second with no ankle. And that one was even, if there was anything left on Friday of the ankle, completely got rid of it by Saturday.
Yeah.
Then it was gone. So my warm-ups consisted of stretching and a one stride, and I couldn't even stand on it. It was the most pain I've ever had in my third most pain I've ever had in my entire life.
Just mental toughness then.
Well, you start replaying in the back of your mind how many things you've missed, what I've sacrificed the last 4 years, my family sacrificed.
Yeah.
All the nights I was up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. to go work out, and it's like I had to do something. I didn't care. I really didn't care if I was crawling across that finish line. Like mentally, I don't think I would have handled it to not be able to try at least and compete.
So you had to get surgery to fix that?
So I had surgery on the opening day of the Paralympics in Omaha, Nebraska, which is not a good thing to be all doped up on surgery when you're trying to watch all your friends do the opening ceremony. So yeah, and then I decided that day I was gonna try to come back again. And trials were 2 months ago in Florida, but April 14th of this year I pulled my hamstring. And so I went to trials at 85%. And still placed 3rd in the nation, and I just didn't have a fast enough time to make it for Paris this year. But you know what's in 4 years? LA 2028. So here we go, baby.
Gotcha.
How old will you be then?
43 years old.
And what's the average age of an Olympian?
23, 25.
Yeah.
Like not that.
So do you think the injuries are from age, or just like you just overwork everything because you're making
trying so hard?
That one actually was I got a new prosthetic, and I was set out too tall, so I was actually reaching too far when I was sprinting, and that's what that issue was with the leg. I just got a new leg in March, and I wasn't ready for it yet. It was going to be faster eventually, but my body wasn't ready to actually go after that hard, and of course I don't have a filter when it comes to that, so it was more on me than anything. My body I don't feel 39 right now. Like on my 39th birthday, I box squatted 390 pounds on my 39th birthday. Like I can still deadlift 500 pounds right now. So like the weight room is still my life. That's what's made me impressive on the track is the work I put into it day in and day out.
What is there's a coach for like, not the weightlifting and training, but like the actual art of like how you move your body like efficiently? Is it like kinesiology or something like that? Like,
yep.
Do you think something like that would possibly
it might not hurt because
like, hey, don't push so hard, move more efficiently.
So that's what we've changed the workouts completely since I started this. Now it's a lot more efficient compared to I can't outwork somebody anymore. My body won't hold up, but I can do things a lot more efficient. And there's different types of workouts now, so it's a lot more. It's quality over quantity now compared to just grinding.
So what? I've been grinding towards a championship in auctioneering, the world championship there, and I've taken 3rd, but I've never won it. And somebody said to me last year, Dave, you're never going to win it until you're ready to know what it feels like if you don't win it. So I got to ask you the question: what if you never win it? Wait, I know you got a goal. I got a
Oh,
goal
yeah.
too. And are you ready to not win it? Because everybody tells me that's when you're going to actually win it. When you say, look, I don't care. I got a good family at home. I got a
Yep.
business. I got a whatever.
Yep.
That's the day that you're actually going to make it happen. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, so when you set your goals so high like that, how many goals are you going to hit before you actually hit that goal? So you're going to hit 150 goals before you actually hit that goal.
Yeah.
And if I don't actually make the Team USA for Tokyo or for LA 2028, I'm going to impact thousands of people's lives before I get to that point. So is it really, am I going to be like, upset with myself? Probably not. Am I going to be in the back of my mind like, oh, dang it? Like, yeah, because I'm a competitive person that wants to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But the speaking thing now and helping people, what I've been through in my life is what my passion is now. Like that's up until trials this year was always training, family, then speaking. Now family and training should be a little flop back and forth once in a while, but it kind of went training, family once in a while. Now it's family, speaking, and now training. So speaking is above that because that's what I love more than the actual training part of it. Like I still love going to college track meets and beating 18-year-old kids. Like there's nothing better than lining up with an 18-year-old kid that should just kick the shit out of me and I smoke them.
I gotcha.
At 40 years
That's
old.
kind of fun.
It's very much fun. And then they don't feel about. I mean, either they have two choices in their life. It's either get better or get worse because they just got beat by a 40-year-old. So 39 and a half, I guess, but.
So when did the speaking come into play?
Years ago, I just got asked by, first one was by an FCCLA, and I talked about failure, and then it just kept, everybody's like, you have a great story, and now I'm changing and just, telling my story to actually punching home the points of why I am like I am, of the things I've had to do to get where I'm at, and, I just love the fact that I can help people. Like for this last winter, I did like 38 days of ice baths in a row in Nebraska, middle of winter. The coldest it was in the middle of a blizzard. It was like negative 38 wind chill, and I was out there in a stock tank taking an ice bath on Instagram Live. And like I've kept getting people's comments later on about, they're going through depression right now, and I would just do like 6 minutes of talks or whatever was on top of my head that day. And if you didn't talk in the ice bath, it was horrible. But as soon as I started just ranting on about, anything and everything, I always hit somebody. I always get a message next day about, hey, that really helped me out.
So is this just a social media speaking deal? Or
No. I'm live anywhere.
This is something that you want to professionally speak
Absolutely.
At large keynote type deal and tell your story.
I mean, you really don't have a huge social media following.
No, I have zero. I have like 1,650 people. And I have, like I said, I've always been the guy. I didn't want it. When I was training hard and being the athlete, I didn't want people to know what I was doing. Like I had the edge of, when I got the World Championships, nobody knew who I was. So we're in the tent going to the 100 and 200 meter dashes. They weren't afraid of me in the tent. I had an edge over them. Well, now obviously, when you do that well, people know who you are. But I'm the guy that, as far as athletic wise, I will always train in the dark and just pop up out of nowhere and be like, dude, where'd he come from? But now I have to revert to, I'm really bad in self
promotion.
Yes.
Yep.
I always feel like I'm bragging, and it's not that at all. Like I need to be better about, I had somebody tell me at trials that you understand that. I always said, if you're in the right situation, anybody could do what I'm doing. They could all run the beef company and the family and the training. And I had him come up and he says, that's not true. Like, not everybody can do what you're doing. If you would help people do what you're doing, there's people out there that want to listen to you that actually could learn from you. And so that's...
Gotcha. So real quick, just throwing a plug there. What's your you have a website for your speaking engagements?
Website's being built right now. The Instagram is at Flea Speaks.
At Flea Speaks.
Yes. So, yep, the website is being built right
now.
now.
Try to get you some speaking engagements.
Yes, absolutely.
Have you done quite a few?
I did 10 high school and elementaries last year and a couple of bigger corporate ones. And this year I'm hoping to get, double, triple that this year.
Do you have multiple messages or like it's just one kind of?
So like elementary and junior high, mostly 5th and under, it's mostly prosthetics and just informative about, Paralympics and what I did. Junior high, I get talked a little bit more about the bowling side of it and working hard. In high school, I can be myself, for the most part, alcohol in high school and things like that. College athletics is where I really can be where my life went wrong and where I actually can be my true self and not sugarcoat my life and actually tell them, I was a piece of shit. I did this, I did this, I did this. I'm not proud of it, but if you guys want to learn from me, and that's where I can actually you can push the points of not just working hard to get what you want, but you have to be really consistent. I mean, everybody can be motivated one day at a time to get what they want, but it's if you want to get up every single day and be consistent every single day, consistency wins over motivation all the time.
Most consistent podcasts out there.
That's right.
That's what we say. We're not the best.
But you're most consistent.
We work the hardest, and if you're the most consistent, quality, timing, all that kind of stuff.
Tanner, you are such an inspirational guy when we do podcasts like this. I can see your mind just freaking blowing up over there.
Yep.
You got to relate this somehow.
My assumption is that we have listeners that are going to have a very tough time. I think they're going to spend this fall in the combine or in the harvest process trying to mentally forget about where their cash flow is, where their profit margins truly are, because that's the favorite part is harvest time. For most people, getting that crop in, and there's going to be a couple of different areas in which I predict. Not everybody's going to be in this position because we know there is great crops out there. We know there are some folks that do some really good marketing, but I also know we've got the flip side. We're going to have areas of our listener base that were still in a drought this year, or they had too much rain and their crop is going to be less than average, or they don't have enough sold and they're going to be underpriced and their profit margins aren't going to look good. And a lot of people are scared to have tough conversations. I hate asking long questions like this, but I'm trying to provide perspective for our listeners as to why this interview is important. And in my opinion, once harvest is over, we're going to have some listeners that are in a very tough spot. And we are farm hard. We're not going to want to talk about it. And if this podcast can get into their ears and we get to share some of the perspective in the rest of this episode from you as to what we can do to identify, because we might lie to ourselves and say, no, it's not me. What we can do to get help, give ourselves some help and grace, and come back and take frickin' 2025's crop year by storm and get out of a funk. So I don't know if that's too harsh and maybe I'm offbeat with my assumptions, but that's my hope with the rest of this episode is your story is fucking awesome.
Thank you.
And I hope you get to speak and tell it over and over again. And I think there's things that we can do to help you get your message out. But now I want to know, as you look back, and it's a shitty time, what's the first thing we should do to realize it is and move past it?
Man, it's when you're sitting there and you know you're almost like you're feeling helpless because like we had a chance to sell corn at $6. Last year's corn, and we didn't take opportunity. It kept dropping, and you keep looking back. The same thing with me, an alcoholic, I kept looking back what I did wrong. Well, today is the day. So what can you do tomorrow, today, to make the situation any better? So, like, for our program, like, if me and my dad's mental health isn't right, like, if I don't work out and I don't do things like that, I'm a shitty employee. I just am depressed all the time. So, number one is take care of yourself, because you can't make multi-million-dollar decisions if you're not clear on yourself at the same time. It's tough out there right now because you're watching, money fly out the window. There's a whole lot coming in right now. Like for our operation, we downsized and got away from. I was spending $5,000 a month on fuel, just checking things all the time. And now like I said before, I have everything close to home now. Within 2 miles, I have everything right now I can take care of. I got rid of a pasture. I'm making more money per head. I have less cows though now. But I have more money per head running them on a section of grass and 90 acres irrigated than I did when I was running 1,000 acres and, I had to rent it for $46,000 when there was no grass out there because we had a drought. So I was planning ahead a little bit on this because I wanted to push the speaking some more. My agriculture is in my blood, and I was born on the ranch and farm, and I've had it my entire life. There was a time where I've seen my dad thrive when the markets were great, and I've seen the hardest times we've ever had, and that's coming up right. My life hasn't been great for farming. We've had a couple of good years in there, but it's been rough. I'm trying to get to the point where I can make the farming side of it the most enjoyable side of it with my family, and make the speaking thing is what's going to save opposite. And a lot of people don't want to hear you might have to get another job. I mean, that's what it comes to. If you're not big enough to sustain, like I have the beef company, I still day work for people when I'm, cowboying, and speaking like I want to get to the point in a couple of years where the farm part of it is my tax write-off, and I can go work my cows with my family and enjoy the hell out of it and not think about the money side of it as so much. And eventually, if I can get to the point where I'm selling all my cows through my own beef company, even better.
I got 2 questions. You said cowboying. Do you have a special stirrup?
No. Nope.
Just regular stirrup on your saddle? Awesome.
My leg has fell off before, yes.
Do you wear cowboy boots on your prosthetic?
Awesome. Second question. Corey, Do you think, I heard a guy say yesterday that we, as in Iowa anyways, farmers had, drought last couple of years, and everybody got into harvest, get their combine in the field. They were kind of like down, but it's droughty, we need rain, and man, there's 10-day stretch of like 90-degree weather. I remember you saying that on the podcast, and then all of a sudden, everybody got out in the field, and it was like, oh, okay, this is better than we thought, and all right, we're happy with this. Now, this year, we've had the rain. Is everybody have false hopes that this is going to be better than what it was in drought? Like, because in drought, we were all like, oh, hey, we got 250 bushel. That was better than I thought. Now, this year, we had rain. Are they going to go out and it'll be like 240 bushel, and they're going to be like, ugh?
I think you're thinking you got a little bit of backyarditis going on here. We've had too much rain in central Iowa, but I think a lot of people have gotten good rain, especially out east. A lot of places in Nebraska that didn't get hailed out had a lot of good rain that they normally don't have, right? Like, so I think we have a good crop coming. But for our particular backyard, we will be disappointed with our yields.
Okay.
I think.
Gotcha.
I mean, because we had too much rain.
I mean, I was even in northwest Iowa. That's where I heard it, or northeast Iowa yesterday. That's where I heard it from up there. They didn't think their crops, they thought they were good, and I'm looking at them thinking, maybe not.
Yep. So I have 3 things.
Okay.
Real quick. Do you still hunt?
I do.
Awesome.
You still hunt with that same gun?
I do. That's still my go-to gun. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, it's a Model 700 Remington 243 with a 3-power weaver on it. That's never been sighted in since my dad had it. It can throw it out of a pickup 10 feet in the air, and the scope is crap. It's a 3.
I was going to say a 3-power weaver.
3-power weaver.
Yeah, no way.
And I'm 100% with that gun. I've never missed yet. Obviously, humans or animals. So I'm perfect with that gun. So no, that's
one for one.
That is the beat around range pickup gun.
Let's clarify.
Did we get the coyote? Like, what happened to the coyote? Yeah.
So I hunted for him after.
Yeah.
I was curious if you were sitting there like
he was.
Might just grab that gun and
He was an old coyote. He was dark on top. He had silver on the side of him. I knew exactly what it looked like. I hunted that thing so hard afterwards, but never did find him.
Second thing, you got to be thinking about doing a book if you're not.
Yeah. So I did a podcast a while back, an amputee podcast, and like that's obviously on the top of my mind. Like, as you got to understand, I'm just a dumb freaking farmer kid who just decided to work hard. So like all this other stuff is hard for me to even fathom. Like, how do you even start a book? You know what I mean? Like with the internet, you can do research. Exactly. But in my mind, I'm still on. I have no idea yet. So I'm learning this as I go, just because I don't have any. I don't have mentors or this and that. I've learned everything I've learned. I've been self-taught pretty much the entire way. So I'm learning that I need to ask for more help. Like even on the ranch, I set trails up by myself. 150-pound panels. I do it. I'm always by myself. Like, that's how I do everything. So it's hard for me to ask for help. And that's what I've got to learn to do better, especially on this side of it, because I would do the world an injustice if I didn't share my story more and actually do it. I've always wanted to write a kid's book, too. I think it'd be great to write a funny amputee kid's book kind of thing.
I mean, it's always nice when a speaker comes around, has an inspiring story. People want to patronize you and, buy a book or something like that. So I think that would be a great addition to your services.
Oh, absolutely.
They can patronize you on beef though,
as
well. So how do they find you on the beef?
So that's Lazy Creek Beef Company on Instagram as well. And then we're gonna have the website's gonna be tied together with. I got a person that's working it's LazyCreekBeefCompany.com too, but it's somehow they're tied to Flea Speaks and the whole internet thing. I don't understand exactly how that all works yet. But
is it Red Angus because you have red hair?
So my grandpa bought Red Angus back in the 70s, and then my uncle, he's a C-stock producer, and he sold some magnificent, tens of thousands of dollar bulls, and I kind of got always a Red Angus guy, but no, it's way better than Black Angus. Like it's so Red Angus has a tenderness gene that Black Angus doesn't have.
Really?
So, yes. My uncle found it and has it. Like you can test for it.
Yeah.
And so even without that, we have amazing marbling in any way. But like even with less marbling, you still let.
You totally need to like trademark that, because even being in the industry, not knowing that, if you you need to label it like, instead of like organic, this is like an extra tender or something. You need like a label you just put on your beef and just mark it up $20.
Oh. Yeah, it's like I said, it's doubled in price since I started this in 2017.
Slap all the labels on it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then you have to deal with people advertise their own ranch stuff. No hormones. Well, every beef has hormones. There's no added hormones.
Yeah, correct.
And antibiotic free. Well, they all are.
They all are
not
by
idiots.
the time that.
Like,
I think you should add.
When you're your own worst nightmare, if you're doing that to yourself, like we have as an industry, you have to be better to understand. You can't advertise like that. You can't. I hate going through the aisles at anywhere because
Yep.
it's all lies. Like chicken antibiotics is the worst
Yeah.
thing ever because they're not giving it anyway. So
I
Yep.
think you should slap the label on there. Raised with one leg.
that's I have a big burger business. I want to start called Half Leg Hamburgers.
What? So a lot of the veterans, say veteran owned.
That's true.
Well, is there a world of amputee owned?
I don't know. We're going to have to start something. There's got
Like-
to be some certification
And
out
I'm
there.
guessing you get that question a lot. That maybe are you a veteran?
Oh, it's all the time.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I'm the right age and I'm fit and it's just
Correct.
Yeah, so there's times I'm like, oh, sorry I didn't. And if it's a thank you and I walk away to just leave it at that and there you go. So
I would assume you'd get that question a lot.
it is quite often.
So for the listeners, as you think about, again, the perspective that we're sitting in,
Mm-hmm.
what advice do you have to motivate them to keep going?
Oh, man. Well, what's the point of stopping? I mean, if we're being completely honest, after 21, in 21, I was the top of my game. I was ranked third in the entire world on the 200-meter dash going in the trials. At the third fastest time that year in the 200-meter dash. Like, I was the top of my game. The ankle blew up, had surgery. That winter, we had negative, 20-degree temperatures for weeks in a row. I was feeding multiple alfalfa bales on stalks for cows a day, and the cows were just looking like shit. We had lice. It was one of the worst winters of my entire life. I went from being the top of the world in June of 21. I was suicidal that winter. That's how fast it happened. I was literally sitting in my pickup with a 9mm for multiple days checking cows going, is this the day? I've been there. And I had to sit there and I had to think about all the things I've did in my life and all the good I've actually helped people. And I'm a freaking idiot for even thinking about this. But it was there because I worked so hard, the ranch side of it, the sprinting side of it. And what was it for? It just all fell apart at one time. And so I had to pull myself out of that hole. I had to start working out harder. And I had to find something that I was proud of. So even though the farming side can be hard, I had to, the weightlifting and the running made me proud to know I'm still working at something. So I had to always find that niche for myself to be proud of myself, even though things in other parts of my life weren't going well.
Does your wife ever ask you, when's enough's enough?
Yeah, a lot.
I've had my wife ask me that. She's like, you've already won some championships. You've
Yep.
done this. When's enough's enough? I just wrote down in my notes, what's the point of stopping? That's quite interesting. Now, you might not be doing the same thing, but you might change and pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Any entrepreneur pivots into something else. Maybe your pivot is speaking.
It is.
Yep. Maybe a pivot is something else. And Tanner, to relate it back to agriculture, maybe you don't make money this year, but as Flea said, maybe you pivot and go get another job in town.
I hope there's as much impact to our listeners as what you said to me on to find something to be proud of. You can take it if you need to.
I don't know what it is.
She's probably playing Heyday.
I don't even. I
actually-
honestly don't know what's making sound on my ear. Can you find what's on there?
That's
Are we
actually
all
really
hacked?
funny.
I literally don't know what. There's no alarm going off somewhere.
But back to that comment, you have to find something that you can be proud of, and whether that's physical activity,
Yep.
or a mental exercise,
Yep.
you're writing a memoir or a book or something along those lines.
Like prayer obviously helped quite a bit too. Because
Yeah.
in your darkest times, there's one person that can help you out, and that's God.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be here, to be honest. The things I did in my life, there's not one reason why 5 things in my life shouldn't have put me out, been done with it. And every time, God always asks, everybody's always asked, why did God let this happen to you? Because he's a freaking genius. Because the guy let me shoot myself in the foot, let me be an alcoholic, let me get to the top of that, let me fall off the bottom of that just to sit here and talk to you guys. There's a reason I'm still here, and I didn't, have those thoughts go all the way through, because I can help people in this world. And this world is a shitty world sometimes. It can be amazing, but there's a lot of days if you're working on motivation and happiness alone, you're not going to be okay. You have to find your own happiness. You have to work at something to be happy, because there are times when everything's going great, it can be a shitty world.
Right.
So what's going to happen when it doesn't go great all the time for you? So it's
We can get pretty calloused.
absolutely,
No.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Been there. Probably still am.
Tanner, I'm waiting for your payoff question
I'm-
at the end, because I am just waiting to hear what this one.
Before that, though, I want to say.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
I just want to say thank you. This is going to sound bad. I'm glad you shot yourself in the foot.
I am too.
Because you
every
wouldn't be here.
every day.
Right.
It is the best day of my life.
Isn't that crazy?
Yep. So that question, what is the best day of your life? Obviously, your kids being born is always up there. My sobriety will always be the top of my list, because without my sobriety on August 7th, I'm not here. None of this happened. And I didn't even tell you, when I got my Team USA bag on 2019, it showed up on April 7th, 2019.
Wow.
It showed up on my 4-year sobriety date. My Team USA bag from UPS did.
Yeah.
So you tell me God's not doing something, that look down at me and say, hey, this is for you. So, shooting myself in the foot was one of the best things I've ever did in my entire life.
Yeah. And I'm also glad that you picked up the speaking thing, because I do know, we can't maintain Olympic status for all of our life, right?
No,
and I would hate to see what happened if you lost that.
Yep.
So now you have a different drive.
Well, I'm already pivoting because I've already looked into the triathlons after sprinting. People can do that in their 50s.
Yep. Right.
So I almost wanted to do it for LA 2028, but I love sprinting so much. That chapter's unwritten for me. The hamstring issue was an issue. I want 4 years of this is the fun part that I hope people understand, is I love making myself miserable. Does that make sense? Like, I love going to the gym at 5. I love that. If I don't do hard things, I'm a piece of crap. I don't work hard that day at work. If I don't get up and I don't make myself suffer, I don't do well. So I love the sprinting part of it because it's really, really hard. Sprinting is not like jump running and jogging. You don't get in a zone when you're sprinting. I sprint for 3 seconds to 27, 30 seconds as hard as you can. That's it.
Have you ever thought about doing long running?
That is not yet.
Yeah. Those people are weird, aren't they?
So I will eventually I honestly think eventually I'll get into triathlons and Ironmans and this and that. But that takes so much more time too.
Right.
And, when I make my millions in speaking, I guess I can have more time on my
There you
hands.
go.
I can do that more of it.
If you ever do get into long running, hook us up or hit us up, because our good friend Michael Bergen, who's in Tokyo right now, would normally be here. He was a ultra marathoner.
Oh my God, those guys
he
are insane.
He could pace you and do
100
all that kind of
milers
stuff.
and
yeah, they're nuts.
They are.
Yeah.
Is that literally the most time we've mentioned somebody who's not been a guest on the podcast?
We're in Nebraska.
Every
and he's
episode, we keep shouting out
He's kind of like our mascot in Nebraska.
That's great.
our cheerleader.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
He's the snark of Nebraska. Is that
No, our mascot.
I do appreciate your openness,
Vulnerability.
your willingness to share your story, and I do hope that it pays dividends. I didn't know how this episode was going to provide value to our audience, but I knew that we needed to have the conversation.
Yeah.
And for us and our show styles, because our listeners know who we are, to label this a fun for fun episode is tough. But I had a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. I mean, you drop some swear words in this one, so it has to be a fun one.
Well, I was watching some of your profit ones, and like I'm not that guy. Like I'm not the guy that went bigger to get 2 more acres. I went the opposite way. I went smaller, making more money per head, but happiness is on my forefront, and just having less input in everything I do. So like those cows, like I'm running, the section's paid off, the ground's all paid off around there. So it's just the rye input a year and cane input and planting it, and then fertilizer. So it's just a whole different process of how I'm doing it. Especially working through the beef company, I know exactly where that beef is, everything's from, and
Like it.
yeah, it's a different, because I was coming in the same way. I'm like, man, I'm the opposite of what these other guys are doing. Talking about numbers of the millions and this and
Isn't that great?
I'm the downside of that side. Of I only had to drive 2.5 miles in my side by side now to check everything, and then just what it cost me $2 instead of when I used to go to the valley and drive 150 miles in a diesel pickup that was $30 a day. Just so.
Yeah, that's exactly what proves the theory is it's not one way for every single farmer.
Mm-mm.
And this episode's not going to resonate the same way with every
It is
single
not.
farmer.
Nope.
It will get turned off. This episode, I bet you we have a lower completion rate all the way through to the end of
Probably.
the episode. And that's fine. I hope they go back and pick it up.
Yep.
I do.
Why
But
don't you start the episode with that clip then?
Dave,
I dare you.
Dave teased it. We have been asking all of our guests the same question. You got a little bit of a privilege, if you paid attention while you were sitting here the last time, to get an idea of what it's going to be. How do we juggle work and personal life? How do you do it?
I must went to the bathroom, so I didn't hear that. So, all right, this is on top of my head. I incorporate them together, 100%. I have my kids help me with the irrigating, with the cattle side of. That's the nice thing about being a half mile away from my cows and stuff and checking is I can drive by. They can hear me. My house is here. I drive by the farm road to the cows. If they want to go with me, I'll hop on the side by side of the 4-wheeler too and meet me over there. I have to. It's got to be together because that's the part when I was running all the stuff in the valley. and more cows. I wasn't home till 8 o'clock at night, and it was miserable for everybody because I wasn't enjoying life. And to have those together now is it's so amazing to be able to see your kids grow up with a work ethic, and have 4-H calves, and everything for me is a lot slower. I can go do speeches once in a while and make a couple grand. That would take me all month to make, on the farm.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot more time at home. You have to change your mindset because I was always brought up, if you're not, manual labor is work. And so you guys are the same way now. I sit on the computer and do research now, watching YouTube videos on how to get a TED Talk and do courses. That's also work.
Yeah.
You have to change your mindset. As in the middle of the day, I can sit down and if I have Wi-Fi, and work and not just clean pins or do this and that.
Correct.
So
Working on your business, not in your business. Yep.
But I had to incorporate my, the life together to make it work, or else it wasn't going to work.
Let me change it up a little bit. How do you balance the motivation to be a world champion and family? So you talked a lot about your family integrated into the cattle business, but you have a whole nother time suck over here, a big time suck.
Yep.
How do you balance that? Because it's your dream, maybe not your family's dream.
Yeah, so I try to incorporate, the kids going to the track with me as much as possible as well. When Hayes was growing up and littler, he would take all of his farm toys to the sand pit, and when I was training, he'd be farming in the sand pit. Like I said, my daughter Chesley, since she was 3, had been on the track with me. She grew up in Cozad, with all the girls knew her in the pole vault pit. Like, they knew her by name at 3 years old. Like, she was
Just
the king.
inclusion.
Absolutely. But it's not easy because I have to travel quite a bit for these sanctioned track meets, and that hasn't been easy because I can't take them because it costs too damn much to take.
Yep.
I was going to these track meets in LA and Arizona and staying in Airbnbs that were a cement floor, a twin bed, and a bathroom for $50 a night, and that was still pretty shady stuff. I couldn't afford the $200 a night hotels for my kids and stuff to go with me, so I've had to sacrifice that. But I try to incorporate that. I mean, everything I've did, eventually it's going to pay off for the family of me being home more and me being able to take more time off. And the speaking thing is the part that's cool because I can incorporate them coming with me in those speeches, and we get paid to go take a little mini vacation somewhere. So,
Very cool.
So if our listeners want to follow you, want to look you up, hire you to speak.
Flea Speaks is on Instagram if you guys have any more questions. My phone number is also 308-529-1186. Like I said, I talk on a bunch of different topics, mostly about consistency of our motivation is what I tell my story, but it's a lot more points of how you can be, how I got to where I'm at, because I didn't wake up wanting to do the things I do every single day.
Yep.
If you work out when you're tired and when you're pissed off and when you're depressed, you will work out when you're happy then too, and you will get things going.
That's great. I appreciate your perspective. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you hanging out with us here at Husker
Yeah,
Harvest
this has been
Days.
great.
And listeners, we appreciate you as well.
Yes, we do.
I want you to write in, farmforprofitllc@gmail.com if you need anything. We're not experts. We can get you in contact with experts. But if there's anything, 515-207-9640, text us. We can be friends.
If you wanted after our talk here, if you first prom, are you wanting them or first form? First form, are they the person you want for a sponsor? Or
So
do you want?
I'm a Legionnaire with them right now, which means I'm working underneath them to get more people just to their app to be healthier and fit. But eventually, the goal would be to be one of their athletes and be invited to their big functions.
Oh,
and to
cool.
Be, you know what I mean? Something like that. So that takes obviously followers as well. That's part of the process. But I've already been in contact. They know who I am. It's just it's not a good fit yet because if you're ever world champion of something or actually Paralympics, it's a little different. But I didn't make that far yet.
Could be our first
Nike contract.
Farm for profit.
Could.
Sponsored.
Could be. Sponsored athlete.
Yeah.
There you
just
go.
like Barstool athlete. Yeah.
Farm for,
it doesn't pay very well, but
hey,
we're the first.
Yeah.
That's right.
But no, thank you again. And I want to wrap it for our listeners. I want to thank them for listening. And until next time, have a good one.